So, responsive web design, basic CSS. CSS or Cascading Style Sheets tells the browser how to display the text and other content that you write in HTML. With CSS, you can control the color, font, size, spacing, and many more aspects of HTML elements. Now that you have described the structure of your cat photo app, give it some style with CSS. So change the color of the text. Change the color of the text. Now let's change the color of some of our text. We can do by changing the style of your S2 element, the property that is responsible for the color of an element's text is color style property. Here how you would set your S2 element's text color to blue. S2 style color is called to blue is blue. Note that it is good practice to end inline style declarations with semicolon. Change your S2 elements color so that each text is red. So the S2 element color, here is the S2 element color. So we have to give it a style equal to color. So colon for assigning value. So red and uh, end with semicolon, so it will get red. Your S2 elements should have the style declaration. Your S2 elements should have color set to red. Your style declaration should end with this. Run the test. Completed. Go to the next challenge. Use CSS selectors to style elements. With CSS, there are hundreds of CSS properties that you can use to change the way an elements look on your page. When you entered S2 style color red catfish, you were styling that individual S2 elements with inline CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. There is one way to specify the style of an element, but there is better way to apply CSS at the top of your code. Create a style block like this. Inside that style block, you can create CSS selector for all S2 elements. For example, if you wanted all S2 elements to be red, you would add a style rule like inside of style, the S2 elements should have color red inside these curly braces. Note that it is important to have both opening and closing curly braces around each element style rules. You also need to make sure that your element's style definition is between the opening and closing tags. Finally, be sure to add a semicolon to the end of each of your element style rules. So these rules should end with semicolon and separate with colon. Delete your S2 element style attribute and instead create a CSS style block and add necessary CSS to turn all S2 elements to blue. So we have to delete these S2 elements. We have only one S2 elements. So at the top of the page you should define style block with closing and opening tag, and inside of which you should keep the element's name and the attributes like color red. Now the style no red blue the style attribute should be removed from the S2 element. You should create a style element. So this is the style element. Your S2 element should be blue. Your style sheet S2 declaration should be valued with semicolon and closing braces with the semicolon and the closing braces. all your style elements should be valid and have closing tags. So run the test, completed, go to the next. Use a CSS class to style an element. Classes are reusable styles that can be added to HTML elements. Here is an example CSS class declaration. So style blue text, so color to blue. You can see that we have created a class CSS class called blue text. Within the style, you can apply the class to an element HTML elements like this. Note that in your CSS style elements, class name start with a period. In your HTML elements class attributes, the class name does not include the period. Okay, this is the period. In the class name we do not use the periods, but in the style elements class name starts with a period. Inside your style elements, change the s2 selectors to dot red text and update the color value from blue to red. Give your s2 element the class attribute with the value of red text. So the s2 element, we only have the s2 element. So first of all we should give s s change the s2 selector to dot red text. So and the color to blue to red, and inside of this we should give the class equal to, without the period, same class red text. So it will give the text red text. Your HTML element should be red. The HTML element should have the class red text. The style should declare red text with class and have its color set to red. You should not use inline style declaration like this. So run the test, go to the next challenge. Ask me later. Style multiple elements with a CSS class. Classes allows you to use the same CSS styles on multiple HTML elements. You can see this by applying your red text class to first P element. Your H2 element should be red, so this is red. The H2 element should have the class red text. This is red text. Your first P element should be red, so we only have here P. So here we have P should be red. So the second and third P should not be red. The first P element should have a class. So if we add the class, it will class of red text, it will automatically become the red. Okay, run the test, completed, go to the next challenge. Change the font size of the element. Font size is controlled by font size CSS property like this. Font size 30 pixels. Inside the same style tag that contain your red text class, create an entry for P element and set the font size to 16 pixel. Between the style tags, give the P element font size of 16 pixel. Browser and text zoom should be at 100%. So inside of this, give the P element, all of the P element should have the font size of 16 pixel. It is good. Let's run the test. Okay, we have got it completed. Set the font family of an element. You can set which font an element should use by using font family property. For example, if you wanted to set your H2 elements fonts to sans serif, you would use the following CSS font family equal to sans serif. Make all of your P element use the mono space font. So the sans serif, monospace, Arial, or Roboto are the fonts. Your P element should use the font monospace. So font monospace, font size, font style monospace. Make all of your P element monospace. Run the test. Your P element should use the font monospace. Font not style, font family. Look, these P are changed. Like sans serif, uh, Arial, good, Roboto, good. So we have monospace. Font family equal to monospace on the text. Submit and go to the next challenge. Import a Google font in addition to specifying common fonts that are found on most operating systems. We can also specify non-standard custom web fonts for use on our website. There are many sources of web fonts on the internet. For this example, we will focus on the Google Fonts library. So Google Fonts is the free library web fonts that you can use in your CSS by referencing the fonts URL. So these are the Google fonts, fonts.google.com. Okay. So is a free library of web fonts that you can use in your CSS by referencing the fonts URL. So let's go ahead and import and apply a Google font. Note that if Google is blocked in your country, you will need to skip this challenge. To import a Google font, you can copy the font's URL from the Google Fonts library, then paste it in your HTML. For this challenge, we will import the Lobster font. To do this, copy the following code snippet and paste it into your top of your code editor before the opening starts. So because this is the meta tag link, this is the metadata. Now you can use Lobster font in your CSS by using Lobster as a family name like this. The generic name is optional and is fallback font. In case the other specified font is not available, this is covered in the next challenge. Family name are case sensitive and need to be wrapped in quotes. Like it is not wrapped in quotes, so we should wrap the Google fonts into quotes if there is a space in the name. For example, you need to quote the open sans font, but not to use Lobster font. Import the Lobster font from the web, then use element selector to set Lobster as a name for your H2 element. For your SO, you should import a Lobster. Your H2 element should use the follow Lobster. You should only use an H2 element selector. Your P element should still use a monospace. So in this you will source Lobster. So here is the Lobster. If you click on this, how to import. If we about license pairing, so Lobster how we can import it is like So download family about license pairing. So this will be the way. So you should import. Import the lobster. Then you should you should keep link before this. So we have linked our Google font. Now we should keep the S2 element font family of lobster. Wow, like this. So you should import the lobster font. Your S2 element should use the lobster font. You should only use the S2 element selector. Your P element should still use the mono space. So for the test completed and go to the next challenge. Specify how font should degrade. There are several default fonts that are available in your browser. These generic font family include monospace, sans serif, and sans serif. When one font isn't available, you can tell the browser to degrade to another font. For example, if you wanted an element to use Helvetica font but degraded to the sans serif font, what Helvetica isn't when Helvetica isn't available, you will specify it as follows. So like this, comma. Generic font family names are not case sensitive. Also, they do not need quotes because they are CSS keywords. These are keywords, CSS keywords. To begin, apply the monospace font. So to begin, apply the monospace font to the S2 element, so that now it has two fonts, lobster, and so by saving comma we should keep monospace also. In case something goes wrong like this, it will go to the monospace. In the last challenge, you imported the lobster font using the link tag. Now comment out the import of the lobster font using the HTML comment you learned before from the Google fonts, so that it isn't everyone notice that the HTML degrades to monospace font. Now if you have the lobster font installed on your computer, you won't see the degradation because your browser is able to find the font. Your STL element should use the font lobster. Your STL element should degrade to font not available. You should comment out your call to Google for the lobster font by putting in by putting this comment. You should close the comment by if you run the tag, it won't get, because I think like this, and we'll comment out this. mm, in front of it. Why it is not coming? Font, and now if the font family is mono space, not working. If you have lost a font, then I can put your loss. Now comment out the input. Oh. Comment out the import. So comment out the import. So we'll comment out the input and it will fall back to mono space. Run the text. It's completed. Size your images. CSS has a property called width that controls the element's width. Just like with fonts, we will use px pixels to specify specify the images with. For example, if you wanted to create a CSS class called larger image that gave HTML elements a width of 500 pixels, we will use like this larger image with width 500 pixels. Create a class called smaller image and use it to resize the image so it's only 100 pixels. It's only 100 pixels wide. Okay, so in here we need dot smaller image and we will give the width of 100 pixel. So if we give this class your so this is the image. Only we have only one image here. Where is the image? Here is the image. So in the image, if we give the class this will go and have smaller 100 pixel image. So if you run the test and go to the next challenge, add border around your element. CSS borders have properties like style, color and width. Style, color and width. For example, if you wanted to create a red 5 pixel border around the element, you could use border color red, border width 5 pixel, border style solid, creating a class called thick green border. So creating the dot thick green border. So the class should add this class should add a 10 pixel solid green border. So border color is green. Good. Border width is 10 pixel and border style solid. Border style solid. Apply the class to your cat photo. So this class should be added to the cat photo. So remember that you can apply multiple classes using its class attribute by separating each class with just a white space. For example, like this class 1 and class 2, it will possess the characteristic of class 1 and class 2. Your image element should have the class smaller image. Your image element should have the class by the space. If it is, the border is green 10 pixel solid border around the picture. Your image should have the border width of 10 pixel. Your image should have the border style solid. Border around the image should be green. Run the test. Go to the next challenge. Add rounded corners with border radius. Your cat photo currently has sharp corners. We can round out those corners with a CSS property called border radius. You can specify a border radius with pixel. Give your cat photo a border radius of 10 pixel. So note this challenge allows you the multiple possible solutions. For example, you may add border radius to thick or smaller class. Should have the your image should have the thick green. So we will have here border and the border radius equal to 10 pixel. It will have this border around the corners. Radius around the corners of border. Your image should have border of 10 pixels. If you run the test, it next go to the next. Make circular images with border radius. In addition to pixel, you can also specify the border radius using percentage. Give your cat photo border radius of 50%. Your image should have the border radius of 50%, making it perfectly circular. The border radius value should use the percentage value of 50%. So we will specify this into this. So the border radius is 50%, which makes it circular in motion. So run the test and go to the next challenge. Give a background color to the div element. You can set an element background color with the background color property. For example, if you wanted an element's background color to be green, you would put this within your style element. Okay, we'll put this in your style. Create a class called silver background. We'll need here the class of silver background. Silver background with the background color equal to silver, and assign these classes to your div. So where is the div? Your div element should have a class of silver class. Where is the div? Class called silver name should be defined within the style element, and the value of silver should be assigned to background property. Your div elements create a class. Assign this class to your div. Okay, here is the div. And this is inside div, so it will be green background. Class equal to no silver background ground. Good. This is the grayish color like silver. So if we create a class, your div element should have the class, your div element should have a silver background, your class name background should be defined within the style element, and the value of the silver should be assigned to the background color. To run the test, go to the next challenge. Set the ID of the element. In addition to classes, each HTML element can also have an ID attribute. There are several benefits to using ID attributes. You can use ID to style a single element, and later you will learn how that you can use them to select and modify specific elements with JavaScript. ID attributes should be unique. Browser won't enforce this, but it is widely agreed upon best practices. So please don't give more than one element the same ID attribute. Here is an example of how you can give S2 element the ID. So this S2 element, give your form element this form element ID equal to cat photo form. Your form element should have the ID of cat element form. So if we run the, we have given this form the unique ID. ID should be inside quotation. Run the test. Completed. Next, go to the next challenge. Use an ID attributes to style an element. So we'll be styling the element ID element. One cool thing about ID attributes is that, like classes, you can style them using CSS. However, an ID is not reusable and should not be applied to one element, and should only be applied to one element. An ID also have a higher specificity specificity or the importance than a class. So if both are applied to the same element then have conflicting styles, the style of the id will be applied. Here is an example of how you can take your element with the id attribute of cat photo element and give it the background color of green in your style element. Cat photo element has symbol background color coded. But note that the inside your style element you always reference class by putting a dot period in front of their names. You always reference id by putting a hash in front of their names. Try giving your form which now have the id attributes of cat photo. So it has this has the id cat photo form. So and give it a green background. So we'll give here a green background hashtag cat photo form. Give the background color green. So your form should have the id of cat photo. Your form element should have the background color of green. Your form element should have the id attribute. You should not give your form any class or style attribute on the test. Submit and go to the next challenge. Adjust the padding of the element. So this is the margin, this is the padding which is red colored. Adjust the padding of an element. Now let's put our cat photo app away for a little while and learn more about styling HTML. You may have already noticed that, but all HTMLs are essentially little rectangles. These important properties, three important properties control the space that surrounds each HTML element, that are padding, border, and margin. An element's padding control the amount of space between the element's content and its border. So between the borders and element content, which is this and this is the space padding. Here we can see the blue box and a red box are nested within a yellow box. Note that the red box has more padding than the blue box, which is obviously. When you increase the blue box's padding, it will increase the distance padding between this text. If you increase the padding, it will increase the distance between text and the border around it. Change the padding of a blue box to match that of your red box. So we will have to have same padding for both. So if we here what we have written is your blue box class should give elements 20 pixel of padding. Okay, so if we search here also, the red box is given 20 pixel padding, so we should, this is also given 10 pixels, so we will give 20 pixel of padding. Both are equal and run the test. We got this and submit and go to the next challenge. Adjust the margin of an element. An element's margin control the amount of space between the element's border and surrounding elements. Between the border and the surrounding div element. Border and element. Here we can see that blue box and the red box are nested within the yellow box. Note that the red box has the bigger margin. Oh, red box has bigger margin than the blue. Okay, because it is wrapped, making it appear smaller. When you increase the blue box margin, it will increase the distance between its border and surrounding. It will it will increase the distance between its border and surrounding. Let me change the margin of the blue box to the Red box of margin equal to also your blue box class will give the element 20 pixel of margin. So it is also 20 pixel of margin. If you give 50 pixel of margin, okay. If you give 100 pixel of margin, so like this, we will give 20 pixel of margin. Run the test, submit and go to the next challenge. Add a negative margin to the element. An element's margin control the amount of space between an element's border and surrounding elements. If you set element's margin to the negative value, the element will grow larger. Try to set the margin to the negative value like the one for the red box. Change the margin of the blue box. Change the margin of the blue box to minus 15 pixel. Minus 15 pixels, so it fills the entire horizontal width to the yellow box. This is the negative margin to the element. If you run the test and go to the next challenge, add different padding to each side of the element. Sometimes you want to customize the element so that it has different amount of padding on each side. CSS allows you to control the padding of all four individual sides of the elements with the padding top, padding right, padding bottom, and padding top, padding right, padding bottom, and padding left properties give the blue box the padding of 40 pixel on its top and left side. So we will have the top and this top side and the left side have the padding 40 pixel, but only 20 pixel on bottom and the right side. Your so first we will give that. So this is the color, and what we are here given. Give the blue box padding top, pad, padding top. We have here 40 pixels. So this is 40 pixel. Again we have padding left, which is this. It have the 40 pixel padding. Okay. So similarly, padding right, padding bottom, we need 20 pixel. Bottom minus bottom padding also. What's this spelling? Padding bottom. Okay, padding bottom 20 pixel and padding right 20 pixel. So it is same like the previous one. Top 40 padding right. So if you give like what? Like if you comment this out for a little bit. So padding top already given. So we'll give the padding right. So we'll give the padding right to look like this. Padding right. So we'll give the padding bottom. So we'll give the padding left. Padding left 40 pixel. Good. What happening? Corner padding right. Okay. Now padding bottom like this. Padding bottom and the padding left also 40 pixel. I think so. Same. Your blue box class should give the top of the element 40 pixel element should give right element 20 pixel. Blue box should give the bottom of the element 20 pixel. Blue box should give the left of 40 pixels. So run the test. Go to the next challenge. Add different margin to each side of the element. So sometimes you will want to customize an element so that it has the different margin on each of its sides. CSS allows you to control the margin of all four individual elements: margin top, margin right, margin bottom, and margin left, just like the paddings. Give the blue box a margin of 40 pixel on its top and left, but only 20 pixel on its bottom and right. So blue pixel should have margin margin top of 40 pixel. Okay, so margin top of 40 pixel, margin left or right, margin right of 20 pixel, I think, or what? Oh yes. Then margin bottom bottom of bottom was a 20 pixel. Good. Margin left of 40 pixel. These are both identical, so these are the same like previous. Margin are on the test. Go to the next challenge. Use clockwise notation to specify the padding of the element. Instead of specifying the elements padding top, padding right, padding bottom, and padding left properly individually, you can specify them all in one line like this: 10 pixel top, right, bottom, left. These four values work like clock. Top, right, bottom, and left will produce the exact same result as using the site specific padding instruction. Use clockwise notation to give the dot blue box class of padding of use these four values work like clock. Clockwise notation top, right, left, and will produce the exact same result as using the site specific padding instruction. Use clockwise notation to give the blue box class padding of 40 pixel on its top and left, but only 20 pixel bottom and right. So in the blue box only the padding. So in the top we have 40 pixel. In the left we have in the left or right we have 20 pixel. So in the bottom we have 20 pixel, again 20 pixel. Okay, in the bottom we have 20 pixel, and in the left 40 pixel. We should give a clockwise notation and set the padding. Blue box top 40 pixel, at the right 20 pixel, blue box bottom 20 pixel. Blue box class will have 40 pixel padding. If you run the test, it is completed. So go to the next and same like margin, use clockwise notation to specify the margin of element. Let's try this again, but with margin this time. Instead of specifying the element margin to margin left, margin bottom, and margin left, this is right properties individually, you can specify them all in one line like this: margin top, right, bottom, left. These four values work like clock. Top, right, bottom, left will produce the same exact result as using the side specific margin instruction. Use clockwise notation to give the element blue box class of margin 40 pixel on the top and left side, but only 20 pixel in the bottom and right side. Your blue box class should give the top of elements 40 pixel. So in the blue box, give the margin. So from the top we have 40 pixel, in the right we have 20 pixel, in the bottom we have 20 pixel, and in the left we have 40 pixel. It is completed. So the margin of the blue box class, you should use the clockwise notation to set the margin of the. So in the left 40, bottom 20, right 20, everything good. Run the test, completed up to 50%. So from let's go to the next challenge. From this we'll continue in the next session. Use attribute selector to style elements. So we will end stream here, and I will upload our next part 2 of this second CSS basics tutorial, like 2.2. See you in the next tutorial.